How did the United States ever end up embracing the policies that gave us massive political and economic inequality? It is important to remember that supply-side economics gained currency in the US because there was originally a logic to it. On a macro level, supply side meant giving less money to the government and more to private investors. Or as economics professor Thomas Byrne-Edsall describes in his 1985 book, The New Politics of Inequality, the US needed to restrain the rate of growth in federal spending to increase the availability of money for private capital formation. Slashing corporate and top individual tax rates would increase incentives for the rich to work, save, and invest. If it's possible to understand this logic, it's also possible to see that these policies were most intentional. Yet even then, people knew the promised benefits would never materialize. Union boss Lane Kirkland said at the time, "Tax cuts loaded on the side of the rich ignore the evidence of history that such cuts do not produce the type of investment society needs most, and do not trickle surely down to enhance the general welfare." This was social policy designed to enrich the already rich, plain and simple. The essence of supply-side economics is to reward the rich and punish the poor. Somehow, treating these two groups differently is supposed to achieve the same result: more growth. As Edsall points out, there are different assumptions at play in how supply-side treats the rich and how it treats the poor. The underlying assumption here is that cutting taxes and giving the rich more money will inspire them to work harder and invest and save more. The underlying assumption for the poor is the exact opposite. Increasing the tax burden on everyone else and cutting spending on social programs for the poor is supposed to make all of us work harder. In other words, take it easy on the rich and they will work harder. Make things harder on the poor and you will inspire them to work harder. Also, different prescriptions, same result. The rich must be coddled, the poor must be throttled. You see, inequality is a feature, not a bug, of the supply-side economic theory. Inequality, theory goes, is necessary to make people want to succeed. Giving the rich more and forcing everyone else to accept less is the whole idea. It's supposed to make us compete. Supposedly, the bad parts of an unequal society are more than offset by new opportunities created by the increased investment and saving that result from rewarding the rich. But Australian economist John Quiggin puts it simply: none of these claims withstand scrutiny. As historian Howard Zinn points out, rewarding the rich, no matter what their contribution to society, and punishing the poor by withholding the necessities of life in order to force them to work harder is unjust and ineffective. There is a political logic for the Republican Party to embrace these ideas. The poor are not the traditional constituency of the GOP. Rich people have gravitated towards the Republican Party for more than 100 years. By rewarding their rich constituents and punishing the poor through supply-side economics, the GOP is able to strengthen their base and weaken support for their competition in the Democratic Party. The Republicans are completely unconstrained when it comes to hurting the poor. The poor don't vote Republican. As I've discussed in other posts, the poor mostly don't vote at all. So Republicans have a free hand to cut taxes on the rich and slash benefits for struggling Americans while lavishing rewards on corporations and allocating ever more cash for the Pentagon budget. But why would the Democrats hop on board? They did. In fact, Jimmy Carter brought us Reaganomics before Reagan. I'll tell that story tomorrow. In the meantime, please like, follow, favorite, toss in a comment, and consider subscribing to my free Substack. Let's make them pay.